Could you make it so I could record also, John?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me make you a co-host.
Yeah.
One second here. Go. Um, oh, you know what? I can do it a different way. Let me just go to the participants and do it that way. Mr. Tom Perera.
And sharing while you're at it.
Yes. Oh yes, I will do that.
Are you guys monetized so you can at least make a little money on it? Well, I'm just rolling in the dough as a YouTube creator.
All right, Tom, you are co-host.
Thank you.
Right now, let me give you sharing privs. All right. So now we can officially kick off this meeting. Well, guys, it's the last one of 2024, and I would say we've had a heck of a year. There's some great shows, there's great meetings. It's just been a good year end to end, great email discussions over groups IO and so forth. And here it is, another year has passed. But no announcements because there's not much to announce at this point in time because everybody should be out and about and seeking that vintage electronics to put in their stocking one way or another, or surprise your significant other with something that they really wish you hadn't bought. But but at any rate, it's good to see you all. Did anyone have any announcements that maybe they want to throw in there that maybe we're not aware of? It's like, feel free to. All right. Well, I think we wanted, Tom, I don't know how you want to do this, or I should say Santa Claus. Did you want to kick off with your which presentation? Because I can show the video, of course, the famous reOHMing video is always a treat. And then you have
Yeah.
your other presentation on the automatic fire suppression system.
That sounds good, John. Santa loves to watch himself on video, I tell you. I learned something every time I watch that video, new ways to be crazy. But I'm gonna try and play it for you one more
Okay.
time here. It's sort of like in our family, there's a tradition. Everybody sits down, all the kids, and we read the night before Christmas, and we go from one page to the other. Maybe we'll do that some year. Somebody can play Santa and someone else can play anyway. Let's go see what
I think
Santa.
you need to actually combine the two presentations because you could have the fire suppression system go off as you were reOHMing the Atwater-Kent radio.
Very good idea. Let's look at it. We'll look into it.
Yeah, that's one step away from making Tom a crash test dummy.
Okay, so let me see if I can get this guy to go.
All right.
Uh, that's not working, right? A little tricky to share a video, I think. I'll try this again.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah.
Santa Claus, you've had a busy year, so we'll give you plenty of time.
Okay, now that might work. Give me some feedback if you start hearing it. Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, one more time. Yeah. Share sound. Okay, and here we go. Okay. Now, let's see if we can start it. That could be tricky. Yeah.
And I'm frozen. I look at me and
Yeah, I see that.
Well, you're in the headlights.
Yeah, yeah, not far from the truth.
Doggone it. How do you start? Let's try. Yeah, that doesn't work.
So, hey Santa, how you making out there?
Can you hear that? Okay.
Ooh,
Hey,
let's see if I can possibly get my video working. Are we working, John?
you are.
Oh,
See you.
right. Well, hello, everybody from the North Pole.
Hello, Santa.
One heck of a snowstorm up here, and that's nothing new because we always have a lot of snowstorms. Matter of fact, it's constantly snow up here. Snow, snow, snow. We don't have any power lines that come in here, and we can't use solar cells because it's snows so much that it keeps the light from getting to the solar cells, and windmills are out of the question because they freeze up solid. So we have a very, very hard time with heating and with energy up here. As a matter of fact, it really becomes a serious problem. And we really had to bundle up a great deal until I realized that maybe there's another source of energy here. And I looked at all my 712 reindeer, and I thought of the old saying, beans, beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. And my golly, 712 reindeer toot one heck of a lot. And we can burn that, and that gives us not only heat, but it gives us electricity. So when I discovered that, we started having beans shipped in by sleigh in huge amounts, and we are living on beans. I tell you, it is wonderful. Anyway, I'd like to welcome you to Santa's toy shop and radio shop. For 2,781 years, I used to make and give away silly little wooden elves like this guy here and this little guy up here. And I decided that I might want to try something else. And now I got into radios, modern radios like Atwater-Kent, and really started grooving on those. And I heard about ways of getting these without actually having to pay for them, because Santa doesn't have any money. Nobody pays Santa. And Santa has to do this all on his own. So I heard about this place called NEVEC in Brookline, and I dressed up incognito, and I made a clandestine raid on Brookline, New Hampshire at the last NEVEC meet. And I walked around trying to look innocent. And I think I got away with it. Nobody really looked at me because everybody was looking a little weird that day. But I was secretly keeping my eyes on the free table. And as the show went on, I saw this poor old Atwater-Kent radio sitting on the free table, and it got late, and then it got very late, and the Atwater-Kent was still sitting on the free table, and the end of the show came along, and nobody took it, and Bruce was grumbling away. Larry was getting really annoyed. Tom finally said he'd take it home and bury it, but when nobody was looking, I put it in a big bag, and I sneaked into the woods nearby where my reindeer and sleigh were waiting, and I took off with it for the North Pole. Now, you've all heard of the All-American 5. Well, this is the Atwater-Kent 6, and you can see that wonderful logo on the front, the Atwater-Kent logo. And this is one heck of a good radio. Now, when you get a radio like this, the first thing you want to do is to turn it on. But I found out it wasn't working. Matter of fact, a lot of things weren't working on it. So I got my tools out, and I surrounded myself with all the important tools like the wire cutters and a pretty good sized pair of vice grips. You never know when you're going to have to do something serious with a radio. And I started thinking about what's going on with this radio. And the first thing I noticed was that there were a whole bunch of wires coming out of it, not just the normal 2 wires that you plug into the wall, but there were bundles of wires. Look at those wires, would you? Well, I took the long ones and I connected them to one side of a plug, and I took the short ones and I connected them over to the other side of the plug so I could plug the darn thing in. I know that they probably have different purposes, but I figured AC, alternating voltage is going to cancel out any problems. And who wants a battery set anyway? You got to plug the thing in. And so I prepared to try the radio out. But first, every time you get an old radio, everybody says you got to recap it. What a ridiculous, ridiculous thing to do to a poor old radio, recap it. Take Santa's cap, you wouldn't recap Santa, would you? Well, you shouldn't recap a radio, for God's sake. It is a very simple matter to take a hairdryer and every condenser in the radio, and you heat up the condenser with the hairdryer. And what that does is it lets the wax inside the condenser run back around all those little plates in there. And it continues to be a good condenser after that because the wax is an insulator, for goodness sake. So don't ever recap a radio. What you gotta do is you've gotta reOHM a radio. Now, reOHMing a radio is an amazing job. And I'm going to tell you a little about reOHMing in case you don't understand how extraordinary a device a ohm or a resistor is. Resistors waste electricity. Did you know that? Every single resistor in every radio wastes electricity. And not only that, it turns the electricity into heat. And talk about a waste. Only up here at the North Pole do you need that kind of heat. But anyway, every radio you turn on, all these resistors are constantly turning out heat. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. So what you do is you take your wire cutter and you go down and you snip off both leads of the resistor like that. And then you look at the resistor and look at this resistor. Will you look at this guy? Look at that. Can you see? It's an orange resistor. You know what that means? That means 3, 3, and then 3 zeros. 3,300 ohms. And that's a lot of wasted energy, of wasted electricity and heat. Ridiculous. Throw the damn thing away. Now look at this one. I just got it out. I'll have to finish cutting it now. Yeah, cut it out. And this one is a orange yellow. My goodness, that is 3,300 ohms. What a ridiculous piece of junk that is. And then we have this one that is a brown green. A brown green is a million ohms. Can you imagine it? What an incredible waste of electricity. 1,000,000 ohms, for goodness sake. Get rid of it. And what you do is you use the really clever technique of you take some bus wire, and this is a roll of number 2 copper wire, and you replace every single resistor with number 2 copper wire when you have an old radio. And what that does is it makes the electricity go through much faster. Instead of 1,000,000 ohms, copper wire is 0.000000042 ohms for the length that a typical resistor would be. Here's another ridiculous little resistor. Get rid of it and replace it with a real solid conductor. Radios need conductors in order to work properly. And that is one of the great lessons that I've learned. You do not want to waste electricity. Do you know that the typical Atwater-Kent radio has 8,871,562,392 ohms in one radio. My God, what a lot of ohms. That's enough heat and enough energy and enough power wasted. You could heat a whole town with that amount of electricity. So the first thing you should do whenever you get a radio, old or new, is reOHM the darn thing and save the world, because we're in an energy crisis. Energy crisis. We could eliminate the energy crisis completely by reOHMing every single radio, television, and other electronic device in the world. So that's the first step. You reOHM everything. Then you go on and you do some other repairs. I got some service instruments over here. We've got a signal tracer, and we've got a good old 260, Simpson 260 VOM. Now the Simpson 260 VOM is a wonderful device, but if you look at it closely, it's always frowning. look at that dial. It always looks like it's unhappy. And what you got to do with a Simpson 260 is you turn it upside down and you put a hat on it and a couple of eyes and you make it smile. Can you see the smile on that baby? That's a happy Simpson 260 ohm meter and voltmeter. And you don't want an unhappy one in your shack. You want a happy meter in your shack. So there you go. And that's really important. You start putting those wires on those parts inside the radio, and you start working on it. Now, I'm going to show you some of the other instruments when I get there, but let's plug in the radio and see what happens. And we'll just put some tubes in it. And what you got to do when you put tubes in is you got to have the right tubes for the radio. Now, these old radios, ridiculous old radios, they use tubes with pins on them. And the modern tubes have screw-in bases. Now, a screw-in base is much more sensible. A tube with pins on it can fall right out of the radio, for goodness sake. And a screw-in tube, it doesn't fall out of the radio. So just bear with me for a minute while I put some new tubes in this radio here. And we'll put that one in, and we'll put this one in. Whoops, yeah, there we go. We'll put this one in. And oh, this one's not working. Let me try my tube tester. You didn't know that a signal tracer is also a tube tester, did you? That's the old ICO signal tracer. But if you look carefully, there's a socket there, and you can screw your tubes into that, and you can test them. Well, that is a bad tube. Let's try this one to make sure it works okay. We'll screw it into the tube tester. Yep, see, that one worked fine. I'm going to throw that one away, and we'll screw this one into the Atwater-Kent. Yep, there we go. We're going to put in another tube there, and we'll put in another tube over here. And let me see, yeah, that one's working. And we'll put in a tube here. Yeah. I hope that one's going to work all right. Let's see. Yeah, it's giving me a little trouble going in, but I know it'll work. I hope it'll work. Yeah, getting close there. Yeah. And yeah. Come on. There we go. And we got one more to put in to get the All-American Atwater-Kent 6 tubes. Can you imagine it? And there they are. And there they are. They're all working.
Bravo.
I just lost my video. Are you getting me still?
Yeah. Oh, Santa, you're coming clear.
Okay, let me just, I don't know what happened there. Let me just recheck my internet connection here a moment. And stand by one. There we go. Okay, so I've got my 6 tubes working here, and they look pretty good, actually. And now comes the point at which we test it. We got the radio on, we got the tubes lighted up, and we got it all re-ohmed so that it's not wasting electricity. I got 3 300-foot long wire antennas up here, and I've got them all connected to the back of the radio, this little antenna connection here. And so it's got plenty of antenna, and I got this loudspeaker over here so we can see if anything comes out of it. Can you see I guess you can see the loudspeaker okay. And I'm going to turn it on, and it makes the volume control go up, and I'm tuning around the dial. And you hear anything? I don't hear anything. There's something wrong here. I don't know what's going on, but I got to figure that out. We need a signal generator in order to test a radio like this. Now, signal generators generally work on a low harmonic frequency, and then you use the higher harmonics, which get up into the radio frequency. So I'm going to start with a simple signal generator. I didn't hear anything from the speaker. Let's try this one. Nothing coming through. Nothing. What's the matter with this? I'm doing all kinds of harmonic. That's ridiculous. What's going on here? Let's try, since we got to have harmonics, we got to have a harmonica. Jingle bells. Oh, well, you know that song. I won't keep playing it. Something is very wrong with this radio. I just can't imagine why it didn't respond. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hook up my 1,000 watt radio transmitter here. I've got a kilowatt amplifier back here, and my friend Tom, W1TP, is letting me use his license. We won't tell the FCC about that. And we're going to hit the microphone with that. And let me see, I'll plug in a microphone to that radio. Let me see, we got a microphone here that looks like it might work. Hello, test. Hello, test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Nothing coming through at all. Nothing. I mean, is that ridiculous? How about this other microphone? This is a nice, relatively modern one. We'll look at. Hello, test. Hello, 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 test. Hello. Nothing coming through at all. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm very upset about that. And, you know, I've gone through all this trouble. We're hitting it with all that power. We've got a loudspeaker on it. What else can I do? And one of the problems that I'm noting here is that it's starting to smoke. And this is big trouble. You don't want a smoking radio on your bench. So you put out the fire by pouring whipped cream all over it. I mean, fire extinguisher all over it. You know, that's it. And pretty soon you've got, at least you put out the fire, and now you've got a radio covered with whipped cream. And of course, you know, this radio isn't any good because it isn't working. So you throw some sprinkles on it, and you sprinkle it with a little bit of candy, and you know it's still going to smoke a little bit, but what the heck. And then you get your marshmallows out, and you might as well, you know, you've got this radio, you might as well cook your marshmallows on it. So we just put a marshmallow on there and a marshmallow on there, and take a little lip. Yummy. That, woo-hoo, that's good. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So as you can see, the radio fixing in the North Pole is kind of ridiculous, but what I'm going to do when nobody's looking, I'm going to take this radio and take it back to Brookline and see if I can get a different radio. So don't tell anybody. Whatever you do, if you see an Atwater-Kent radio with marshmallows and whipped cream all over it, don't give away my secret. Whatever you do, and Christmas is coming. Remember that. And I got other radios. Don't worry, I've got other radios. Got lots of other radios I've been working on. Some actually work after I reown them too. And the most important thing of all is don't light your fireplace on Christmas Eve, because I'm coming down that chimney and I don't want to get my toes burned. So please, please, please don't light your fireplace. And with that, I wish you, we got to put out the fire a little bit more. I wish you very, very,
Bravo.
Yeah, Santa's outdone himself again.
That's awesome. I never grow tired of watching this. You know, it's
That
gonna.
was a hoot.
Personally, I think this needs to make, you know, TBS, when they show the Christmas story, they just need to insert that right into the sequence. Bravo.
Well,
Tom.
you know, reOHMing is really a neat idea. I don't know why people aren't doing that. Probably get away with it with solid state, or maybe if we have quantum computing radios or quantum radios pretty soon.
Table Marseille sitting second.
Yeah, that was terrific. Absolutely terrific. Love it. By the way, it is posted now on our website as under the video archive. It's now, for those who never grow tired and want to keep watching it at their leisure, it is now on our website.
Oh, that's great. I'll watch it again. What the heck? It's also on the AWA YouTube channel, and a couple of other YouTubes. So I guess people are enjoying it a little bit. I hope.
The next video I put up on my YouTube channel, I'm going to put a link for that video on because that was the
It's
most
gold.
entertaining thing I've seen in months. That is so funny.
Thank you,
Loved
Robert. I appreciate it. The problem is, somebody might actually believe what I'm saying there
There
and
was a
get into
disclaimer.
real trouble.
If they believe that, they better see their doctor and get their meds adjusted.
I don't know.
That was just so funny. And
Wait a
that
second,
reminds me of
it's
the
not
old
true?
PBS shows from the 60s. My mother used to watch religiously Julia Child. And there were a couple moments where Julia Child was like tapping into the cooking sherry, and you could tell.
Yeah,
And she all
she
stoned
she
in that
grabbed a
kitchen,
chicken one
whiling
time
away.
and she shook that chicken like I thought it was going to fall apart. And the interesting thing is that Julia Child, did you know that Julia Child actually worked as a consultant for the military during World War II and apparently dreamed up recipes for GIs and acted to do some spying also. So you might want to
Wow.
look into her history a bit. And you'll see some absolutely amazing stuff.
Put a chicken in a howitzer, see how far it goes.
Ooh.
Oh
Okay.
man, oh, that's classic.
That was great.
No, I loved it. This is the perfect way to wrap up the year.
Well, okay, I can go
Right.
on and do the
Yeah.
fire talk then. Let me see if I can share this guy, and maybe I'll turn on a recording so I can improve it a bit. Record to this computer. Yeah. Okay. Stand by one. Share. And okay, can you all see that okay?
Sure can.
Okay, so I'm cleaning up my room for the first time in maybe 20 or 30 years. And it's an absolute mess. I mean, just an incredible mess. And one of the areas that needs help is the top of the toolbox that I always have nearby to fix things. And I'm cleaning up, reorganizing the nuts and bolts and drill bits and grinders and stuff up there. And I'm looking at the top of the toolbox and I begin to notice this little black spot, a little black spot on the photograph in the toolbox. And it didn't seem like a black spot belonged there. So I looked a little more closely and a little more closely still. And I realized that that little black spot was a fire and that the fire had actually burned into the photograph. And that got my attention. It meant that at some point in the past, there had been a fire on the top of my toolbox. And if you look back at this picture, you can see there's a window shade over here on the right. And that fire could have gotten over to the window shade. But for some reason, I have no idea why the fire went out. It might have been the sheet protector. The picture, the photograph was in a sheet protector. Or I don't know why, but the fire went out. And I think it was a very, very lucky thing that the fire went out. And so I said to myself, this cannot happen again. Let me try and figure out what caused the fire. And I looked real carefully, and I didn't see any obvious place where there was something that hot nearby. And so I decided, okay, I was doing some soldering way up above this with a very hot soldering iron for a very long time because I was soldering some heavy antenna copper wire. And maybe a drop of solder had dropped down into the toolbox and burned the toolbox and started this fire. So I took a really hot puddle of solder and I heated up as hot as I could get, 830 some odd degrees, and I dropped it on top of the toolbox. You can see this rather strange burn marks there. And I dropped it on top of the toolbox to see what would happen. And there's the solder blast. And I figured when I peel that up, I'm going to see something like the burn marks that I see in back. and I lifted up the solder and nothing. So that eliminated the solder hypothesis. There are also some antennas. My long wire antennas all are feeding in with open wire line into the area above the toolbox. And that made me think that maybe lightning had hit the wire and the lightning had jumped over to the toolbox. In any event, it was really scary because it meant a fire had started that I was totally unaware of, and that it could have taken my entire house down without any problem. So I started looking at all the stuff above the toolbox. And I have a bunch of wire antennas coming in with open wire feed and a knife switch switching them. And I've got a balun down there, and I've got a field strength meter hanging on one of those wires with little antenna hanging down from it. And I called my wife in. I showed it to a bunch of people on Zoom and nobody could figure out what was going on. So I called in my wife and I said, Gretchen, would you look over here and see if you see anything that could possibly start a fire? And she said, what's that funny little wire hanging down from that round thing? And I said, that's nothing. It's just a little pickup antenna for my field strength meter. It's a receiving wire. It's not giving off any voltage of any kind. And she said, well, it's awful strange that wire is sort of sitting right over the place where the burn marks are. Let's see if we can move it directly over. And sure enough, the wire exactly reached over where the burn marks were. And you can see that wire pretty clearly in this picture. And I started looking more closely, and I could see that the wire actually reached down to where the burn marks were. And when I looked real closely at the end of the wire, it looked like the end of the wire had been melted. That is, the wire itself had been melted, like you'd taken a welder on the thing. And you can see it better here. There's sort of this burned insulation in the wire. And down at the end, you can see where the metal had actually melted. And so I said, how can that be? It's a receiving wire. It picks up RF and it feeds it into the field strength meter. What's going on here? So I looked a little more closely, and sure enough, the wire exactly fit down into these two spots. And it was clear that I guess that if there was enough voltage and current going through here, the wire might have hopped from one spot to the other, or might have been happening at two different times or something like that. And so I figured, okay, what is happening here? Maybe that wire is somehow picking up energy from my radio transmitter, because it could also be lightning, no way to know. And so I took the wire and I put it on an open part of the toolbox, and I fired up my 1,000-watt amplifier, and I started transmitting Morse code and single sideband on several ham radio frequencies with the wire literally resting on the paint in the toolbox, and nothing happened. So there was no spark jumping over from the end of the wire. And I'm sort of left with the only possibility being that the wire was hit by lightning, and lightning came down and activated, but maybe two bursts of lightning causing the wire to sort of shrivel up for a moment and drop back down. Very interesting problem and very scary. You can see how much heat was generated down there, and that is definitely not something you want anywhere near your home, anywhere inside your home. Again, another picture of it. Let me see. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry about that. Okay, so I started looking at this field strength meter, and it's a microvolt field strength meter, literally a DC meter that reads in microvolts. And I had it hanging from one of the leads in my antenna system. And if we look at the back of this thing, we can see that the circuit that I built was pretty darn simple. The circuit simply involves a little 1N4004 diode and a radio frequency choke and a capacitor to basically take the RF and rectify it, make it into DC that would move the meter. Nothing rocket science about that. And the wire comes down to perhaps the burn point. So whatever it was somehow got into that wire, and it had to, pretty much had to have gone through the 1N4004 diode, because the meter still works. And you would think that if it was a real hefty voltage, it would have burned out the little coil in the meter in a second. So that's a puzzle. And look a little more closely, we see the circuit is just extremely straightforward and a big puzzle. So I said to myself, I don't know what could have caused this fire. I'm going to go out and I'm going to put a sprinkler system in my room, because I can't afford to have a fire when I'm not around, and even when I am around. And I started looking at sprinkler systems, and by God, when you get into a sprinkler system, water sprinkler system, you have to plumb the thing, you have to bring water up to it, and you have to drill holes in the ceiling and all kinds of stuff. It's not a real fun thing to have to do, but I was resigned to it. But I said, why don't I hunt around a little bit on the internet? And I came across this thing called a Haven, and a sprinkler system put into your room with all the appropriate pressure variation and water coming in and so on. It's going to cost a couple of $1,000. And some of the dry chemical extinguishers also cost quite a lot of money. But this device I came across, Amazon is selling these things. It triggers at exactly 135 degrees. So by the time the fire gets going a little bit, that 135 degrees is going to get up to the ceiling. And this thing has a temperature sensor on it. And when it hits 135 degrees, it lets go. And it mounts in the ceiling. And it's a class A, B, C dry chemical extinguisher. And that immediately turned me off, because I've heard that when you put out a fire with a dry chemical extinguisher, you can never clean up the mess. But I've simply found out, since that, that you can really clean it up pretty darn well with just a vacuum cleaner. So I bought one of these things, and let me just show you how it works. You make a hole in your ceiling if you want, or you can hang the thing under the ceiling, which is what I'm doing here, because there's not much space between the ceiling and the floor above. But it's designed to go through the hole like this, and then tilt over. The body of the extinguisher tilts over, and this little plastic thing then is all you see in the ceiling. And when it lets go, it just blasts and covers the entire area with fire extinguishing compound. So I bought one of these things, and I unboxed it, and there it was sitting in the box. And I took it out of the box, looked very straightforward, and has a little pressure gauge on it that tells you that it has the appropriate amount of pressure. And it does have a single 9-volt battery that operates the solenoid that releases the gas or the powder. And that 9-volt battery needs to be changed occasionally. And what you do is you just pull down this thing out of the ceiling and replace the 9-volt battery. So I don't have tools to cut the right size hole. And I was thinking, I'm not going to put this in the ceiling. I'm going to hang it under the ceiling. And the company actually sells a bracket that lets you hang it from the ceiling rather than putting it inside the ceiling. And I'm going to make up one of those. But meanwhile, I've got this thing sitting over here in the corner of my room. And you can see it's ready to release this dry chemical if it gets up to 135 degrees. You can also see down here that I've coiled up the wire coming from my field strength meter, so that hopefully it won't produce any more fires. So that's a Haven, and $279 seems like a really reasonable price for insurance that will not just send off a fire alarm and call the fire department if you have a fire, but it'll put the darn thing out. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not sure that a single blast from one of these things could put out every possible fire. And what I've decided is to put two of them up there so that if one of them runs out, hopefully the other one will take over, or it'll be an all blanketing blast of dry chemical, a fire extinguisher. And I'm getting ready to mount them up to the ceiling. But meanwhile, I'd like to show you a company video made by the company. And I'm going to do, what is it, total revelation. I do not have stock in this company, and I am not a salesman for the company. I just think it's a pretty neat deal. So let me see if I can show you the video in which this fire extinguisher is released. Where am I here? I'll try again.
Yeah, maybe you're dropping these off in kids' stockings, Santa.
Yeah, right. Whoops, that's not the right one. Whoops. Stand by one while I find this thing again. Yeah. Links. Okay, there we are. No. Haven. I got it. Okay, hold on. Let's see if we can get this to come up. Control. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Stand by one. I think we're going to get this to work. Share. Okay. And can you see something now?
Yeah.
Okay, this is pretty scary stuff. So, like CNN says, you may want to turn away before looking at this guy. On the left, in two pictures, you're going to see unprotected room, and on the right, you're going to see the Haven at work. Here we go. So, can you hear me? Okay, and can you hear the audio?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the stove fire first and then a Christmas tree fire.
impressive. Now we just need to throw you in the reOHMing thing at the third scenario, Santa reOHMing.
I was just thinking in the second video, if the rabbit ate beans, I'm not sure if that fire suppressor would have reached.
It's interesting. It's obviously not going to work in every possible scenario, but it seems to me a good investment.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. You know, actually,
Like cleaning it up is cheaper than buying another house.
Yeah, right.
that was actually great detective work on your part to actually figure out what seemed to be the root cause. As
Well, I'm still
unlikely as
not
it is.
sure. I'm really not sure, John, because I didn't know that lightning had hit it, didn't burn anything else out, and RF didn't seem to do it. Joe, you're pretty good on this stuff. You have any idea what might have, whether RF could have done that?
I think it would have blown your meter before it would have arced to the
Yeah,
tool cabinet. Yeah. I don't have a clue.
yeah. Well, you know, my theory is that if I can't figure out what caused it, then it could happen again, and I might as well just put the fire extinguisher in there.
Yeah, when I saw it hanging from the feed line, I thought, well, it's possible. But once again, you confirmed that it didn't take out the meter. So, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I should call in one of these fire marshal, I guess they call them, go in after fires and they figure out what started it and say, hey, tell me what started this fire.
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a friendly fire marshal, though, or he might tell you you had to get rid of that entire room full of junk in your house.
Right.
Oh man, all of us, I think, have rooms where we work on radios, and there are wires behind our test equipment and toolboxes and stuff. And one little mouse coming along and getting hungry and deciding to chew through the insulation could do this kind of thing. So we're all living on borrowed time, I guess. And maybe replacing extension cords every 20 years is a good idea, because I know they get real brittle after a while. But
I actually, it's kind of scary because the house that we were in Massachusetts for 40 years before we moved was a house that was built in 1952. So there weren't even polarized plugs or, three-pronged outlets or any of that stuff in, most of the house. As I put additions on and stuff, I took care of that in the new construction. But, there were very few outlets in every room back then. And so I had power strips and extension cords and all kinds of things all over the place. And as we were moving out and I was unplugging everything, it's like, well, the house we're moving into down in Texas is, something that was built in like 2010 or whatever. So it's not going to be an issue. So I gave away at least half, if not more than half, of the power strips and the extension cords. And by the time I moved all my stupid crap down here, I ran out of outlets in the new house and I had to go back out and buy more power strips and extension cords because I just simply have, we all have like too much stuff, and every single thing that we own has a power cord on it. And, besides things like power supplies to run dashboards and, then there's like the electric train sets and the jukeboxes and the, all the other stuff, let alone the workbench. It's like, it's just everywhere.
So, we go out and we buy power strips with surge suppressors in them, right? Instead of having all that coming out of a cube tap, you got it all coming out of a power strip. Well, I bought a Trip Light, which is a good brand power strip, and I had pretty good load on it, I guess. And I smelled fire, and I looked down, and the entire strip light strip with about 6 plugs in it had turned black, and it was smoking, and it had melted the plastic. I think the MOV, metal oxide varistor, that is supposed to short out when high voltage gets to it, probably not only shorted out, but caught fire. which makes no sense at all. They're supposed to protect you from transients. What they really do is they protect the equipment that's plugged into the power strip real well. But meanwhile, the power strip heats up and burns up and your house burns up. Holy mackerel.
Tom, this is a an excellent time to have this. Unfortunately, the two people that I know of that could benefit from this aren't here tonight. One would be Larry. He runs Openline, and so does Carl.
Yeah.
And I think if you can put a little something together for Raven, we'll get it in there. This will be valuable once John gets it up on the net.
Yeah, we'll get Larry to look at the recording. How about that?
Yeah,
See if we can
yeah.
share the
Seriously,
pace
Larry should see this.
Well, all of us that have wires everywhere.
Well, yeah.
I'll bet you even Greg, I'll bet you got some wires in back of things that aren't quite totally safe. What about it?
Oh yeah. That crumbling wire on the insulation needs some Cool Whip in there or something.
Yeah, install one above every one of those radios that has the curtain burner power cord.
Yeah.
Well, and the number of televisions, I've got more than your typical number of televisions that definitely draw some current out of the wall, so
Predictor.
multiple predictors and Magnavoxes and Admirals and all kinds of crazy things, Stromberg Carlsons.
Oh yeah,
so maybe it's a good thing we're renaming the club NEVEC instead of the Antique Radio Club, and maybe people will ultimately get solid state televisions, and they're a lot less likely to catch fire. Although I've seen power supplies go up in those.
Yep.
Well, that was terrific, Tom.
Thank
and also
you.
good information as well. And certainly
Well, it's good that system is basically self-contained. It can just operate wherever it is. It doesn't have to be wired in electrically to a house, although I suppose you could replace that 9-volt battery with some kind of wall wart or something like that, so you didn't have to worry about forgetting to change your batteries or make sure you change them every time you change the ones in your
Well, it's got a little light on it, Larry, that shines down through that white bezel. And if the light starts flashing, it's telling you to change the battery. Now, whether we're going to do it or not, you tend to get lazier and lazier as life goes on without fires, and then you get scared. And I'm hoping I'll scare a few people into putting a little more care into what their wires are doing.
Yeah, no, this is excellent. Even the video.
Every time I pull one of my antique cars into the garage, it's second nature. I pull the car in, I turn the key off, and I get out and I take the battery terminals off.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Because you never know. Again, some little mouse or rodent or something chews on the wrong wire, and then all of a sudden,
Well, that's actually a very good piece of advice, because I bought a car off my uncle, and the first time I had it in the garage, I had a car sitting out there for a couple of days. And I didn't have any fire suppression or anything like that in my garage. I have a detached garage from my house, and I went to go start the car up, and I heard this arcing. I'm like, what's going on? And the battery cable had worn itself through against the inner one of the fender wells. Yep. That could have easily started a fire. So a little bit more careful. I whenever I've replaced battery cables in the car, I've been careful of the routing. Yep. Whoever put this one in, but I bought the car for my uncle. I'm sure he bought the car that way. He didn't do work like that, but that was just.
And with a car, it can start as some wires burning up an electrical fire, but you've got a gas tank full of fuel, already there, and fuel lines that are under the hood, and
absolutely
it can turn into a conflagration. It's not just going to burn insulation off of some wires. It's going to maybe catch some gasoline or power steering fluid or whatever else might be.
Another reason that I'm sort of hypersensitive about fires is that I had 2 in-flight engine fires in my single engine airplane. And that really gets your attention. You're flying along, and all of a sudden, bright flames are coming out of the engine onto your windshield and smoke. And what do? You turn off the gas, and you suddenly become a glider. But you have to be pretty good to land a plane as a glider. Happily, it's something you practice almost constantly as a private pilot. Got away with it. But what had happened was that the exhaust pipe, the muffler pipe, is held to the exhaust header with a clamp and a pin through the side so that it can't come apart. And the pin had fallen out, and the clamp had loosened, and the exhaust header was shooting out hot exhaust gases, and gradually the muffler pipe moved away. And this really cleverly designed airplane, the exhaust gases from the header pipe went directly onto the copper fuel line and burned through it. So suddenly I had raw fuel burning in essentially 2 feet in front of me. And happily, you just learned how to deal with things like that. But you get to pay attention.
So where did you end up landing it?
There was luckily an airport. I'm usually flying pretty high, maybe 5, 7, 10,000 feet. And so I was able to land in both cases at Schenectady Airport. I typically flew between the New York City area and my farm up here in Vermont. And there are a lot of airports along the way.
Oh, that's great. You're able to actually put it on an airport runway as opposed to, a highway.
Yeah, you can do a highway if you have to. You can do a lot of things,
Yeah.
but a runway is a lot easier.
Right. Right. Good stuff. Well, we can do definitely a round robin, but before we do, I'm actually going to hand off to first have Greg lead off here because I know he has a little bit of content he'd like to show, and I'll make sure we get this in because there's a nice little, I would say, a Christmas element to this, wouldn't you think, Greg?
Part of it is, yeah, the non-radio part of it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think maybe next time we just you just kind of lead off here. I can do is I can share my screen and you can maybe show the restorations first.
Sure, we do that.
Yeah,
Before and after.
let me first bring up the bear with me here. Mhm. All right. So first let me share my screen. Okay, this. Okay.
Oh,
That is sad looking 1938 Philco with the photo finish on the front that I think a lot of people have encountered on some of those Philcos. What it is like a decal with a fake wood grain finish on it. It's put over some plain white wood. There's no grain or anything onto the wood. And if it's just a few chips, you can sometimes touch it up and make it look pretty decent. But this was pretty well gone. So what I had to do is measure where each of the different grain areas was on there. How far up they were and how far over they were. And well, I managed to sand that all off and I started over and managed to recreate as best I could using toners. Now the next picture you'll see
all right, I'll
the results.
let me so 1 second here. Sorry about that. I lost my window. Whoops. Sorry about that, Greg.
Share them each individually.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to find a more efficient way to do this on my Mac here. All right, let's share this. Go.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. That's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
That's the same radio?
The same radio, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm beginning to wonder about this. Oh yeah, sure.
Even Santa couldn't do that.
When you said
Reowned and
different,
everything.
you said different toners. I don't quite get it. Different
The
stains?
spray toners, you ever use that stuff, Noah?
No.
Yeah, it's made by Mohawk, and originally wood finishes on radios were done with a spray tint. They
Hmm.
weren't, done with a varnish and a rag. They were sprayed on. And that's how this was. You put the sanding sealer on first, then you can mask off different areas. And actually, the lightest color is the bare wood, just with sanding sealer. And I used some pinstripe tape just over that little 1/8 inch wide area when I toned the rest of it.
Okay. So it's like doing a paint job, then just masking
Yeah.
off areas and.
In essence, it is, yeah.
But what
I
about
think that
those
looks
like
better in the photo
striations
finish.
that you get,
Yeah.
the wood grain that you get there? I wonder, how is that done?
Well, the darker areas, to try and recreate a little bit of a wood grain finish, a little bit of a magic marker technique in there.
Okay.
Just
No, it came up great.
drew a few
I'm
lines
gonna-
and things in there.
It looks factory fresh, I'll tell you.
John, could we go back to the first picture just for comparison? Can you do that, John?
Let's see. Let me go back to the prior one. 1 second here. I'll bring up the original photo and share. Bring this one up. There we go. So take a look at that. I mean,
Incredible. Wow.
look at, you nailed it. I mean, just this area, all the lines are perfectly straight and, in terms of your striping, just a great job, Greg.
Well, thank you. The nice nice thing about the cabinet is it's square on both edges, so you can just use a combination square, and I measured it out all over and masked it off.
Let me see if I can try and put both photos back to back and see if I can't share the entire screen. Let me try and do that because that's still here, the other photo. Let's see what I can do here. Because it's worth, let me try doing that. I don't know if it'll work, but let's give it a shot. Stop share, and then we share again. We share the entire, I can share the entire screen. I don't know if this will work. No, let's see if I can get the other photo. Get the other photo. Where are you?
I see both of them on
They're,
my
they're
phone.
both there.
There we go. See if I can get them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Get down a little bit. There you go.
I mean, wow.
Wow.
I mean, mine's a little more bold than the original one. The original finish was kind of a darker. It was more subdued. You really couldn't see the different grain patterns very easily. And I think with age, they kind of darkened too a little bit. But
yeah, it's just fabulous. Now, is that a keeper?
no, I got rid of that one.
Wow. I'm sure it got snapped up right away.
It didn't take long.
So, Greg, did you polish up the escutcheon as well? Looks, or did
Part
you?
of it I did, yeah. Then I repainted it.
The lighting's a little different too on the dial, so I take it
Yeah,
that
one is lit up and one is turned off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, wow, fabulous. I'm always impressed. You never cease to amaze us, Greg.
Yeah, me too. Wow.
Thank you.
Hey, Greg, there used to be a guy that made decals to match photo finish. Have you ever tried those?
I never did, and I think the guy, I haven't seen him advertise them anymore because some of the people that did try getting them from him, the quality varied from decal to decal. Some of them were very poor what he did. And I think there's a video of it on YouTube. He had a big, like a turkey roasting tray, and he had just this huge decal to put on the front of a radio, and it was quite a process.
Yes, he must have taken a photo of a good one and then somehow put it on a decal. I
Yes,
guess.
scanned it and put it on decal material.
Greg, the Philco label on there, the words, is that, did you bring it up or did you put new letters on?
That's a reproduction decal.
Okay,
It's the same same size. It's just a
yeah.
A lot cleaner.
Yeah.
like
All right.
Wow.
Outstanding. All right. So maybe the next radio. Just
Got to
close.
get you up here at the North Pole. Help Santa a little bit.
Let's see here. I'm going to bring up the other one. I'm going to try to do the same thing.
hmm Yeah, this one isn't quite as dramatic, but
Hey, Greg, forget Santa. It was 77 degrees here yesterday. You could just come down and have some nice weather and do a couple
I'm
radios
I'm
down
all
here.
for it. It was in the 20s here today, and it said on the weather it felt like 17.
Oh,
Now we put this side by side
I've got a
here.
nice Stromberg Carlson chair side that needs a little re-veneering here and there, and I'm afraid I'll even just make it worse if I try to do it.
Right. I think I'm ready to
Santa will
share.
fix it for you.
All right.
It's a little bigger
Mm,
than the table radios that Greg usually does.
Ah,
Wow.
Yeah, that one's an RCA.
yeah.
And that radio must have been in a room with a fire because it was just black with like soot material. The dial glass itself, it took 3 cleanings to try and get it clear.
And the end result. Ta-da.
But the entire cabinet had to be refinished, and I recreated you can kind of see it a little bit. There was a 3-tone finish on the front of it.
Yeah. I love the look. And that tuning eye dead center of the dial face.
Mm-hmm. It's behind the glass.
It looks like to me, is that the original grill cloth? I mean, it looks like it matches almost like it's the same one.
It is the original because they don't make a pattern like that. I just used a little toner on it to try and brighten it up a little bit.
Wow. It looks brand new because look at it, the patterns all match.
Wow.
How'd you fill in that little gap down at the bottom in the diagonal wood?
Oh, no, that's a little piece of veneer I managed to work in there.
Ah, wow. Matched it perfectly.
Cut it at an angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That I think boys and girls is available on Radio Attic. Is that right, Greg?
That one's there yet. Yeah, I just listed that one.
That's wonderful, Greg. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Very, I love the way this, I think you have a great shot of it. I mean, that's going to sell, the picture alone is going to sell itself.
Well, there was a reproduction decal too. In between the 2 knobs, it says the set was designed for television reception, which is kind of interesting for 1939 that the RCA was already advertising television.
Greg, when you show the item, do you also show the before restoration picture?
No, I generally just do different angles of the cabinet and the back of it. On Radio Attic, they give you 6 pictures to sell your radio by, and figure it's better to have the finished product than what I started with.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's really neat. That's a somewhat similar situation with Enigma machines. We always torn between restoring them somewhat or letting them show all their battle scars. But it's not relevant in what you do because that's just beautiful.
Well, thank you.
All right. Gorgeous. Let's see here. Let me close these up. And so next will be more, I'm going to let you sort of.
Well, we can show the white Christmas picture if you
want.
Yeah,
let's do that. Oops. Let me go grab that. Do you want me to start with the Roseberry Clooney?
Sure, start with that one.
Perfect.
And since it's Christmas, and I think a lot of people remember the movie White Christmas. It's one of the big holiday movies of holiday classics. I have a picture here that John's going to show.
Right. There we go.
There it is. That's an original picture from 1954. Back in around 1996, I found an address for Rosemary Clooney, and she lived on North Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills. And I sent that picture with a self-addressed stamped envelope to her and a letter and asked if she would sign it. Well, months went by. I think about 6 months later, I got my envelope back, and that's the result.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Now, that's her next to Danny Kaye, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
On the left.
Yep, that's who I thought it was. Yep. That's terrific. And a keeper.
And everybody looks like Santa Claus in that picture.
Yes, indeed. All getting ready to reOHM. Let's see, we'll move on to the next one. Let's see, I'll just pull that out. Now this one, okay, okay. You know, I'll do is on. I'm just going to start showing my entire screen here. All right. Can you let me bring up
this one needs a little setting up because, of course, Christmas. A lot of people remember Bing Crosby and White Christmas and the movie and the song and everything. Well, for about the last 20 years of her life, I became acquainted with his widow, Catherine Crosby. For about 40 years, I was a Bing Crosby collector. I've got quite a collection of memorabilia of his, and I was his co-editor for his fan club magazine for about 20 years. He's got the world's oldest active fan club listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. His fan club was started in 1936 and still goes on today.
Wow. And
that's a picture that she signed when I met her the first time in 2001 in a little place way up north, Rice Lake, Wisconsin. It's very close to the Minnesota border. She was up there for a golf tournament. And that's a picture from 1976.
Terrific.
Try to get a Minute Maid orange juice can.
Oh, I remember that.
Well, in 2003, she came here to West Bend and visited me in my home, and that's me with her and the dining room table filled with Bing Crosby records she's looking at. And we made the front page of the local newspaper. She signed a copy of it for me.
Very nice.
Got a Philco Bing Crosby radio?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess you could say there were two of them. There was the one that's called the Bing Crosby because he advertised it with the kind of curved front with the door, with the, where you slid the records in like a disc drive. And then there was that Bing Crosby, like red and yellow jukebox thing.
The junior jukebox, right?
With the light bulb inside of it.
Yeah.
Got one of those too.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. Let's see. And finally.
Might have been. Yeah, there she is. That's my grandfather. It was his birthday when she visited. We went out to eat to a restaurant to celebrate his birthday. She just doted on him the whole time, which he obviously loved. He was the Chrysler Plymouth dealer here in West Bend from the 50s into mid 60s. So he sold some of those. And I think one of the mechanic had a 6300 like yours, Noah.
Yeah, that would have been a 300F as opposed to a G. Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yes, indeed. Oh, that's terrific.
That's here in the same. That was in 2003. Here in the same house where I'm talking to you from.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, that was terrific, Greg.
That's excellent.
Yeah, some great memories.
She passed away in September, just shy of her 91st birthday.
Oh, really? I had no idea she passed. Very interesting. Well, that was terrific.
Just thought that might have been a little something pertaining to Christmas.
Yeah, definitely.
That was cool.
Absolutely. It's going to close these windows. Well, why don't we continue this onward to other people? Like I'm just going to randomly now. Santa did a heck of a job, so I'm not going to pick on him because he did a lot of content. Hey, Howard, what's going on?
Well, hi everybody. And anyway, let's see if I can share a recent find. I don't know if you guys can see that.
We can.
So this is a FM FM only tuner made by Browning here in Massachusetts. I had been looking at one of these for a while. This is one of those things that everybody no one really knows what it's worth. I was lucky enough to find this at a church thrift shop in a basement of a church. There's a guy that's got one on eBay for ridiculous money, like hundreds of dollars, which to me it's not even worth it. I believe somebody had one at NEVEC this past year or the year before. Again, a lot of money, but while it's not amazing, I'll say this, I'm sure when it came out, especially if you were used to AM, the sound is really good. It has 10 tubes and including the tuning eye. The tuning eye is one of the reasons I really wanted to get it because I wanted to experiment with that and see how it worked in this particular thing. And I gotta say, it's rather mediocre. But it's interesting nonetheless. Um, Missing one of the knob brights, but it really didn't need any recapping or anything. The capacitors were, I measured them and they had very low leakage and it came right on nicely. I do have a loose plate in the tuning capacitor, but other than that, it receives very nice. So I'm happy to have found that.
Howard, how does the tuning eye work? Does the black line go up and down or what?
It moves. You know what? I'm gonna have to make a video of that, Tom. That um, it moves out, and actually, you see they're kind of narrow. There's two bars that are kind of narrow. Um, it expands when you're off channel. And what it's supposed to do is, depending upon which direction you're off channel, one bar is supposed to be longer than the other. And it's barely visible. Um, there was a lot of fanfare when they came out with this particular tuning indicator in 1947. There were full page ads um, and everything. The people that used this the most were the ham radio operators. They actually figured out ways to make this so that you could use that indicator. It's called a 6AL7 GT to tune three different stages of a transmitter, including the tripler stage, the oscillator stage, and the final stage. And maybe sometime I'll give a presentation on just that tube because it is rather interesting.
Yeah.
I could really do a presentation on just that. But anyway, that was my recent find. Now, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so, we had a meeting and I told you guys about my mechanical nightmare of a dial on a radio that I was working with.
Yes, indeed.
I finished that radio.
Okay.
Okay. There it is.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow. Love it.
Empire Model 207. Now, one thing I'm not good at is taking before and after pictures and documenting where it's from. I think this was back in the bingo hall days that I had gotten this. And eventually I'll do a presentation on this as well because I did do a lot of research to figure out what the model number was, and I was able to come to the exact model number with very little information and markings. And it took me down a very interesting path about the company Empire and where they came from. And about 12 other companies that were also named Empire that have nothing to do with this radio. That's the dial that Radio Days did a beautiful job on.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it came out wonderful. Again, in the future, I'll do a presentation on this radio and kind of the rabbit hole that I went down and all the information I found out about it. So anyway, look forward to that in the future as well. And
that scale, the scale in that on that dial is very weird. Sort of a logarithmic scale, the little white scale in the middle.
yeah, I'm not really sure. In the very center here.
Yeah, the black. No, the second lower scale.
This one here.
Yeah.
5.5 megacycles to 17. Yeah,
okay.
it is. It is. Oh, wait a second. What am I?
No, I
Yeah,
think that's
I see-
1700 to 5.5 megs.
You're right. You're right. 1700
okay.
to 5. Okay. I I was confused about that for a minute. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
But yes, it is very interesting though to but
Wow.
it's a great it's a great playing set, and it's not the most attractive, but it's very interesting. I've never seen another one. And anyway, I'm happy that it's done because it's done. It was a lot. And again, I'll do another presentation on that. And for those of you who weren't here, I'll go through the mechanical nightmare of getting the dial to turn when I do that presentation.
I think it's really unusual.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. I don't know if you guys get this, but
the wise men.
Nice.
There's
really nice.
Thing going. I can't possibly have been the first one. Somebody else must have done this too. Well, anyway, I threw that together this past weekend, and I said I'm going to take a picture of this for everybody. So anyway,
that's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Well done, Howard. Wow, it's a great presentation. It's a great stuff. I think that Empire Radio is really intriguing design-wise. I love that bright work of the escutcheon is really
it is interesting. And like I say, I'm going to do a presentation on that because I did a lot of research and came across the actual model and advertisement for it. But I went down a lot of roads to get there. So there'll be more on that after the first.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, Howard. That was awesome. Hey, Rob, what's going on in Arizona?
Not that much. It's getting cold out though, like it was 58 today.
Well, you have the second highest temperature, I should say. I think Noah has you beat.
Yeah, I bet he does. Yeah, because we're up at elevation. So, no, I was looking around for something to show, and I really don't have much. I've been focusing on beer again. Well, it's not consumption, but for the longest time, I've been involved in what I call analysis paralysis because I got a book on water. There's a whole book. See? Water.
What is it? Why?
It's all about brewing and the cations and anions, and it's a real snooze fest to read.
Cold barley soup.
But see, what you ought to do is a lot of the taste of beer comes from where it was brewed. So in the different German cities, they have different water characteristics. So I started with that. And there's a software program called Brewing Water. I had my water tested to get its exact composition. And you can kind of convert it to whatever water you want. Anyways, there's software to do it. There's a lot of chemicals involved, and it's really kind of boring, but it's the only way to make a really good beer. So that was one end. Then the other end is, I started to talk about it before, it's a cold mash. Mashing in beer is when you take the cracked grain and you seep it, kind of like a big tea bag, but at like 150 degrees, which soaks the sugars out of the grain and also the enzymes. And the enzymes break down the starches. Well, that's how you get a lot of alcohol. I'm trying to brew very as low alcohol as possible. So I used a cold mash, which is non-enzymic. You don't get any of the enzymes. You don't get as much of the sugars out of the grain. But then there's also, since you're doing this, and it's soaking for like 24 hours, you could get a lot of bacteria. Any kind of bacteria you get in there is going to give you off flavors. So I fixed that with an aquarium UV light to sterilize the water before I do it. I could stop if you guys are, if you don't want to hear this. It's
Wow.
really, so I had to, and then now the wort, or when you end up with this sugar solution, is going to be very different from other beers. So there's a thing about how much yeast, how many yeast cells do you need? And there are calculations on how many billions of yeast cells you need, or what should have. There's an analogy of the sheep in a sheep in a field. If you've got 100 acres and one sheep, there's no way that sheep's going to take care of eating all the grass in that 100 acres. If you've got 100 sheep and 1 acre, well, you're going to end up with a lot of dead sheep because they don't have enough food to eat. So you have to get the amount of yeast to the amount of sugars present. And that's a whole other calculation to try to get that right. And then it comes down to the yeast temperatures. When you're fermenting, you want to start out at the coldest part of the yeast and then raise it. So yeast, when it eats the sugars, it produces alcohol, or yeast poop, as I call it. But there's a lot of byproducts. But if you warm the yeast up at the tail end of the fermentation, the yeast will actually go back and clean itself up. And that'll get rid of some other off flavors. But you got to get the temperatures right. So I built a big old insulated wood box with a small radiator in it that gets fluid from a freezer. And I have a heat sink with a fan on it to heat it. And I can maintain a temperature like 65 degrees. It'll stay within plus or minus a half a degree just the whole time. And then also the yeast, how many cells that I need. I started a yeast starter, which is in a stir plate, and you put some wort in there, which I had to come up with. I had to boil it and make some small amount of wort. Anyways, I'm getting way off subject. So this one's analysis paralysis, but I spent a lot of time doing that. And right now it's conditioning. Conditioning is carbonation. What you do is you put the beer, into the bottle, but before you do that, put it in a bottling bucket and figure out how much sugar you need based upon how many volumes of carbon dioxide you want in that. If you put too much, you're going to open the bottle and it's just going to, like champagne, fly out. You put too little and it's going to be flat. So there's formulas for that too. So that's what I've been working on. I will get back to my radios. It's still sitting on the bench.
The science of brewing.
Oh yeah, well, I'm in a brew club, and there are some people in here that have this down so well. It's scary. When I first joined the club, I thought, yeah, I'm pretty good and all this. No, I'm not. It's pretty crappy with what I was doing before. So anyways, I'm being inspired. We have some brewers that are like Greg here doing radios. I mean, they're that good at it. And so I learn a lot from Greg, and I'm learning a lot from the other brewers too. Anyways, just fun.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
Rob. I appreciate that. Well, let's see here.
I got a little something, John. If you're interested.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I know. Well, there's 11 of you guys out there other than me. There's 12. I see 12 boxes. Actually, it's 13 boxes. But John's getting to be a hog. He's got 2 boxes.
Yeah, I'm doubling it. It's redundancy in case one fails.
I'm sure that sooner or later you guys have gone down the rabbit hole called YouTube. And you know that I have a channel and I've had my channel for 14 and a half years. I'm going on year 15 of YouTube. But the latest channel that's on my Radio Wild page right now is the New Jersey Antique Radio Club's. I have it up there as the 2024 holiday party. But if you actually click on, I should have renamed it the gift exchange game, because that's really what the party is all about. We get together, we talk about anything from radios to beer and cars and whatever else happens to come around. But the gift exchange game is the really best part of the party. Now, I don't know if you've seen the video that I put up yet, but if you haven't, let me explain. I'm kind of an instigator, okay? If you're not familiar with the game, what you have is basically a fishbowl with everybody's name on it. So what happens is you go out there, you pull out a name, you read the name off, and that person gets to pick a gift. And then there's a little bit of rules in the game, like you have one box that's a do not open box, and somebody will pick that, and they can pick a gift and decide to go with the do not open option. Once that's gone, then that person is the only person that's going to have it. And what they did this year was perfect, because they waited to the very end of the game, and then they could pick anything they want. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to put in nice radios, because what happens is when someone grabs a gift, let's say, and they open up and it ends up being a really nice radio, people will fight over it. In other words, somebody will grab it, and somebody picks their name and they say, well, I want his radio. And then you just take the package that you pulled and hand it to that person and grab that radio and sit in your chair. So I've tried to put nice radios in there just to watch the people battle over which radio to have. So this year there was two really good radios. I did an L600 transoceanic that I redid everything. I did the cover, I did the chassis, radio alignment, the works. Whoever got, I know who got it, but they got a really nice radio. However, we have a Canadian member named Dan. And John, if you can give me a share screen.
Oh, yeah, you should be good to go.
Oh, I should be good to go. Okay, so let me try and remember how I do this. Hit share. And so this fellow, Dan Gervais.
Oh, sure.
In this radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a Philco 610, if my memory serves me correctly. This radio went around to 6 different people. So one person actually pulled this. When they initially grabbed the radio, it was gift wrapped, obviously, because it was a Christmas gift. Then it went to 6 other people. My transoceanic only went to 2 different people, and the guy who actually took the do not open thing switched it with a guy that I gave the radio to. When it was my turn to pick, I literally took the transoceanic and gave it to someone that usually just gets crap. And he opened it up, and there was the transoceanic. I'm like, oh, this is great. He's going to come on with a great president. Then, nope, the last guy with the do not open, he swiped the transoceanic from him. That's so I really felt terrible. But that's all part of the game.
Yeah.
But this radio went to 5 or 6 different people, and if you look at the quality of the radio, I mean, this guy Dan Gervais, he's from Canada. He lives outside Toronto. Beautiful work. I mean, I was just really impressed. I was within like 5 feet of seeing this radio up close. The outside of the corners of the radio kind of looked so nice that at first people were thinking it was a Bakelite radio, but no, that was just the initial finish with it. I think Dan told me he put like 5 or 6 coats of lacquer on it.
Wow.
So that was just a lot of fun, and it's just good to get that together with everybody in the club at the end of the year. So it was a lot of fun. The food was good, and camaraderie was there, and it's just what the holiday is all about. So if you want, just come over to my channel and you can watch the whole video or some of my other videos. And I make enough money on YouTube so that when I go to do my taxes every year, by the time they itemize everything up, the money I make from YouTube only becomes negligible, because I have to put that to my taxes to pay for what I got to declare on my taxes for the YouTube channel. So, unless I start getting 10,000 hits on a video, that's not going to happen, because it's such a You know, what we're doing is kind of a narrow window. There's not a lot of people like us that do what we do. And I get that, but I just do my channel for fun anyway. So just to put the to calm yourselves. I don't make a lot of money on YouTube. I think I might make $250 a year off of YouTube, but that's it.
That sounds pretty good to Santa.
Well, if I start fixing my radios using whipped cream, I might actually help that along.
Well, I could buy a good number of cans of whipped cream.
I will promise you, Tom, the next YouTube channel I put up or video I put up, I'm going to put that link on to see that video because that was just a hoot. I love that.
So how do I make money on YouTube with Santa?
Start a YouTube channel and make big videos with Santa.
Okay.
That's all you have to do. Just have to answer some questions for Google and you're on your way.
That would help pay for all those beans for the reindeer.
Yeah, you gotta get that bean money going for the deer,
right. For propulsion purposes.
Yes.
Jet propelled reindeer. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Bob. That's awesome. Yeah, by the way, it's we had Dan Gervais on as a guest, oh gosh, maybe some 3 or 4 years ago, probably a good 3 years ago he gave us a little presentation on Canadian radio's history, if I recall. It was a great presentation. I think I have it on our website, on our video guests as well. I think I posted that. So he's a good guy.
He does absolutely. He's an awesome woodworker. I mean, the cabinets I've seen him put out are just it's mind numbing. And occasionally, we'll send each other emails for parts or things like that. Or Dan wanted a couple, Philco knobs for me that I had, and it's just great to have him for a friend. He's a good guy.
Well, thanks, Bob. Let's see here. Hey, Joe,
Noah has his hand up.
Sorry?
Noah has his hand up.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I can. I didn't see the hand. Go ahead, Noah.
I'm sorry.
I'll get Joe in right behind you. Go ahead.
Well, I hadn't originally planned on it, but after Greg taking us through like Christmas and kind of things, I figured I would share with how I torture my family with old records and record players and electronics and things like that around the house for Christmas. I don't know, hopefully these are going to show up.
Oh,
this
yeah.
Is my very first record album, and it's a first Christmas record for children. And,
oh, yeah.
And it's not stereo because it's like 1960, or though I was like 5 years old, and I had this record, and of course it's a Columbia because my grandmother and my mom were working for Columbia, and this has the featured artists on it are Rosemary Clooney and Gene Autry and Burl Ives, and it's
classics
songs on it.
It's all the classics.
That kid, I think his name was Ricky Zond or something like that. He did that song "I'm Getting Nothing for Christmas," if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
Somebody snitched on me.
Oh yeah.
This was my first Christmas record.
That's cool.
And it got a weird old world feel to it. Try to keep the glare off it with that strange looking Santa face.
Yeah, it's a strange looking dude.
So
I think that Santa had some of Rob's beer.
I play that. Of course, you have to have your
Johnny Mathis.
Oh yeah. It's
These are all Columbia records, of course, and the Columbia Seasons Greetings Festivals of Stars. So that's got like Mitch Miller, and it does have Bing Crosby on it.
Oh yeah.
Johnny Mathis, and all the typical folks from Columbia Records who the stars were.
Yeah, I saw that's like Glenn Miller. Did I not see that?
Yeah, probably on there. Yep. And then this one,
got to have that.
We wish you the merriest Christmas, and that's got Doris Day and Aretha Franklin and Ray Conniff, of course. And this one is Johnny Cash and Les Paul and Mary Ford do a song on here. And let's see, and the Harmonicats, if any of you remember the Harmonicats, the harmonica players. So there's even a song from them on here. And of course, you have to have a dedicated album for Andy Williams.
Well, of course, naturally.
This is now getting into a slightly newer one. This is a Christmas album, and it's got Frank Sinatra and Andy Williams and Johnny Mathis and Mitch Miller and Tony Bennett, and it's also got the stamp on the back saying "Demonstration Not for Sale" because it was, you know, one of the that Mom brought home back in the day. And then there's a Columbia. This is a three album set called the Magic of Christmas. So you can really stack this thing up on the various record players around the house. And of course, I also have to have a little bit of Perry Como.
Perry Como.
Oh yeah.
Got to have a Perry Como. Everybody, I used to have a Perry Como sweater, you know, as like a 12-year-old or whatever. And then being Polish, there's got to be
Oh yeah.
a Lawrence Welk record for with.
Thank you, a Bobby and a Susie.
Wonderful,
That's it.
wonderful.
That's right. And I do have a cousin Bobby who plays the accordion. Bobby Nowasaki plays the accordion.
Very nice.
And then we throw in at the very end here, we got to have
Elvis.
Oh, there you go.
we survive all of those and we make it all the way to New Year's Eve, then I've got to have my
Oh, very good.
Lombardo.
Wow, look at that classic.
Guy Lombardo, Old Lang Syne, and New Year's Eve with Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians, of course. So that's kind of how the holidays go around here. Is I've got multiple turntables and record changers and stuff. So there's the Admiral Triple Thrill has a really good record changer in it for playing 78s. So, you know, the 78, the Bing Crosbys and the Gene Autry's and all of those things go on the 78s. And then actually, usually it's the either the Magnavox or the Grundig that's in the living room that plays the LPs, unless I put a few on in the Capehart flip over record changer, and because that'll just keep going and going and going and cycling through all the records. So nothing very new. You know, there's no modern Christmas music. It's all stuff that comes off of these, you know, 40 and 50, 60-year-old records.
Nothing wrong with that. I have a sentimental fondness for the Ray Conniff singers. My mother always played that album right a few days before Christmas, and so I made sure I got a copy, and I still play it, you know, right around Christmas because she played it every year. So it's and I think it's actually terrific. It's done in 1961, which is 1 year after my Telefunken was made.
There you go.
So right around perfect period music.
Pretty interesting recording techniques there. They always had that depth and that like wall of sound kind of thing with the Ray Conniff singers. Oh, I should probably send it out, or I'll email it. I could send it out, and then whoever doesn't want to see it can delete it. But there's actually all the Ray Conniff albums that I grew up with and had to listen to forever because that's what Mom always played at the holidays. I had no idea, but I think in 1964 there was a Ray Conniff Christmas special on television.
Really?
So it was all the Ray Conniff singers performing on a TV special, and it's on YouTube, and I have it. Somebody sent it to me, and I've got the link, so I can.
Yeah, send that out.
I can blast that out to the NEVEC site.
Yeah, it's free. It's electronic. Just delete it if you don't want it.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Hey, Noah, I got a question for you. Do you remember that Lawrence Welk? You remember when he had his television show? Do you remember who was his sponsor?
Geritol.
No, well, that was later on. I mean, earlier days.
Yeah.
Well, now that I've said,
I thought you would know this for sure.
Now that I said Geritol, I blanked out.
It was Dodge.
Oh, Dodge. Oh, yeah. Way back.
I have a picture somewhere on my other computer of Mitch Miller sitting in a 57 Dodge convertible, holding a 45 and inserting it into the 45 player in the car.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I just remember all the Geritol stuff that, you know, in the Champagne Music Makers and Bobby and Sissy and
that's funny.
I saw a picture
of the tap dancer.
Yeah. Even long after his show went off the air, after Dodge stopped sponsoring him. He still drove Dodges back in the 70s even.
Yep. Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
I heard it. There was an interview with somebody that was close to Lawrence Welk, and they said he was a very very loyal. He was a loyalist, I guess. So he was always close to, Dodges. So that didn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And a perfectionist. As a young girl, a young daughter of mine, I used to force her to watch Lawrence Welk, when it was the PBS repeats of it, when she was about 9 or 10, because I was forced to watch it. So I was going to force her to watch it. But she had a better appreciation for it than I did, because she was taking music lessons and she played the clarinet in, like the middle school and then through high school. And I never realized when I was like, do we have to watch Lawrence Welk again this week? Kind of thing. That he was such a perfectionist that those musicians he had were amazing. Henry Cuesta was like the number one chair for the clarinet, and he was just incredible. They were really, really good musicians. I didn't want to hear anything about it when I was, with that age. But like I said, my daughter had more appreciation for it than I did.
There was a girl in my high school where I went to high school whose her father was part of his band for a while.
Wow.
I wish I could remember the name, but I think he was a trombone player.
Yeah. Because of course Myron Florin got all the highlights because he was the accordion player.
Yes.
But good stuff.
Good stuff.
It's some of the holidays is definitely about reminiscing.
Absolutely. No question. Well,
I got one more question. This is kind of not Christmas related, but I did this as a kid, and I'm just curious to see if there's any of you guys out there that ever did this. My grandmother lived close to the New Jersey Railroad, which is now Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. And me and this other guy, we used to go over there with our change, and we would take our pennies and put them on the railroad track.
Oh, sure.
Did you guys ever do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I haven't looked at these in like 40 years. I forgot I even had them.
Yeah. We didn't go to there wasn't the train tracks specifically, but in Pennsylvania, it was that they had a lot of trolleys. So we'd put them on the trolley tracks,
Okay.
And then
they'll do the same damage.
We'd put them on the tracks, and then we'd run away and hide just in case we derailed a trolley with our pennies. We wanted to be able to run away and not get caught if we knocked it off the tracks with our pennies.
That was that kid over there. There he is.
Yeah, it happened just like the fugitive. That was you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's funny.
It's funny.
But well, let me head up to Joe. So, since we haven't seen Joe very often anyway, in Jefferson, Maine.
So I started off thinking maybe I should talk about my subject of the week with ballast tubes. Since I've taken such a deep dive into it, it's been a rabbit hole that I'm slowly climbing back out of. I'll get an article in the newsletter about it as well. But Howard actually woke me up to something else that I was working on. Since he had his FM receiver from 1948 or so, started to work on a Meisner from the same time period. Meisner came out with this one, I think it's a Model 6 or something like that. And they have about 3, possibly 4 different versions of the same model. They just changed the circuitry around a little bit on it. But one of the things about this was that underneath the chassis, there's not a whole lot of real estate for leaving the electrolytic sit on top and putting replacements underneath. So I think out near Greg, you're in Michigan, aren't you?
Wisconsin.
All right, you're the other side. Well, there's a fellow in Michigan that developed a sort of a replacement, sort of a kit you can build for an electrolytic. And I thought, well, maybe I should give it a try. And I haven't had the time to do it yet, but let me show you the fellow's website so you can see what I'm talking about. And he's out near Battle Creek, and his website is w8aor.com. And what he's put together is several different kits that you can use. The one thing that I've purchased from them is one of these, not the capacitors, but the plate and the disc that go underneath. And I can take you over to the online store to show you just what I came up with. If it would come up, please. Thank you. You can have a 4-in-1. I chose to get 3-in-1. So, because that's what the radio needed. It needs a 3-in-1 for the electrolytic. And I can mount this on top of the chassis and not have to, consider where am I going to put, 3 capacitors underneath the chassis. And as I mentioned, there's not a lot of room to do this. But he does offer quite a few kits. And, you can take a tour around. A lot of it's for amateur radio, but, we can tailor it to what we want to do. And I'm thinking I'm going to contact him anyway and see if he wants to take out a membership with NEVEC and put an advertisement in the back of the newsletter so that
good idea.
Everybody else does. So you can see, if you're familiar with the Heath kits with the HP23 power supplies, he has, a version of that there. Some people, they've come up with PC boards that you can put on there. There's about 6 different ways to fix that. So that's it. The other thing I've been working on was that Emerson. Let me stop the share. It's been a little bit of a pain in the butt, this Emerson. I got it, and the cabinet's fine with it, but the cabinet is the earlier version from 1937 or so. And the chassis from 1938. So it has sort of a split personality going on here. I didn't know which radio I was working on when I first looked at it because the tube complement didn't match what the cabinet was showing. So, and there were no decals on it. So, you just have to do your research. And then this was later in the production line as well. So I got to the point where now I know what to do with the ballast resistor, and I'll fix that in no time flat. So that's that. Not much else. Larry Allen and I will be getting together in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks to start on the next newsletter because we have to have it out before the end of January. So if you want to contribute, please, we would be more than happy to take a article from you. So that's about it, John.
That's awesome. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
I love your Ready Kilowatt poster on the wall behind you there.
My wife got this for me. And let's see. Everybody familiar with Art Collins?
Yeah.
Okay. He drew it.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
Of course, this is a reproduction, but
yeah.
I've been a fan of Ready Kilowatt since I was knee high. So this is nothing new. Yeah, but you can see up on the top.
That's cool. 1935.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Love it.
That would look good in Raven, by the way, Joe.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Why not? It's just after the Christmas.
Some years ago, somebody did an article about Ready Kilowatt. And that's one of the early ones we did in color. I think Howard might have been the president about when we did that one.
Okay. Well, geez, thank you, Joe. That was great.
Okay.
Glenn, what's going on?
Well, I've been looking for this set of headphones for about 20 years. I saw ads for it, so I started to think they really didn't exist. It's not too exciting, but I'm going to share the picture of them.
Sure.
Everybody see that?
Wow.
Oh, Edson's. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Edson. Not Edison.
Edson.
Edson.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were made in Providence, and I found loads of ads for them, but I've never ever seen the headphones. And just a couple of weeks ago, a pair ended up on eBay, so I got it.
No way. Wow.
Nice.
How long
That's
you been
great.
searching? Has it been like a decade?
I would say at least 20 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a find.
Not going crazy searching, but every time I saw headphones, I'd look to see if they were Edson, but it never did.
You know, Lynn, when you brought that up a few weeks ago, I took a look at my headset collection and I didn't see anything. And since it's a 4K ohm headset, probably not something I'd be using on a crystal set anyway.
Yeah.
What about?
I even searched to they got hundreds of pairs of headphones down at the museum in East Greenwich and nothing. Never seen one.
Did Edson make anything else?
Oh no, that's basically about it. That's the only ad I've ever seen is headphones.
What radio would use headphones that would be that kind of impedance?
I guess any kind of battery set, probably.
Oh, okay.
Three dialer or something like that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've seen the
I'm still
1,000
kind
ohms,
of
3,000
I'm still kind
ohms.
of new to older stuff in $3, so I'm kind of in a learning curve. So that's the only reason why I asked.
Well, I understand.
So this
I've seen 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. A lot of range.
Maybe Santa will reohm them for you.
Yeah, look at that wasted 4,000 ohms.
4,000 ohms. You probably can't hear anything with 4,000 ohms in there.
Santa Claus can fix that.
You're gonna have very hot ears.
Santa's getting very indignant right now.
I'm gonna clean them up with some whipped cream first.
Oh man, that's funny. That's awesome. Congratulations. It seems like a search finally came to fruition.
Yeah.
20 years.
Now we gotta figure out how to shut this off.
Oh, I should be able to get you off.
All right.
There you
Thanks.
go.
Can do it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. Let's see here. Back to speaker view gallery. Let's see here now. Who else I can get? Ken. Now, your video wasn't turned off, but I want to see you very often. So I wanted to.
Yeah,
What's
hi
going
guys.
on with you?
How's it going? This has been a great meeting. Some of you guys do just unbelievable work. I can't even imagine how you do it. My big project is reinstalling my crank up tower and tri-bander. And I was working on it a bit today because the weather was so good. I just had a lot of home construction, so I had to take it all down. It had been up for 25 years. So when we took the tri-bander down, we kind of tweaked one of the elements. And so I was out there messing around with it, trying to straighten it out. And of course, I broke it off. So now I got to go find a new piece of aluminum. So, but yeah, no, otherwise, just the stuff you guys do is just amazing. It's really inspirational. I wish one of these days I'll try something myself. So other than that, everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Yeah, you too, Ken. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's see here. Bear with me a moment here. Pear was there, and now I don't see him.
I think we scared him away.
Yeah, maybe we did. Let's see here. Hold on a second here. I have to rejoin. Whoops. Hold on a second. Hopefully
I know you had a twin.
Yeah, I know it's me.
Oh, yes,
I've put my boy. What I'm gonna do is I will
still there.
I will complete the meet with showing a little something on my side, just a little funny thing. Here, let me gotta take this off. Bear with me because I'm gonna actually mute this. So bear with me a moment here.
Oh, we got surround video. I see what we got here.
I'm mute.
I don't have my 3D glasses for this. I gotta get my glasses.
Hey, I'm really blowing you guys away here. Let me flip the. Let's see if I can flip the camera here.
waiting to see something like Max Headroom here go on.
Yeah.
There we go, guys. I'm going to show my year-round Star Trek tree since it is Christmas.
Oh, look
and
at
who
that
wouldn't
topper.
want? There's the tree topper of the Enterprise. And I've had all these years. My wife bought this for me. Well, she bought the topper a couple of years ago for my birthday. But I had in my closet all these years those Star Trek Hallmark ornaments. And they were just sitting in their boxes for years. And a friend of mine put a year-round tree, and he had a bunch of his Star Trek ornaments. I said, wow, that's an awesome idea. And I've got some space in my office. And so when do I put that up? So she got me the tree. And so I just opened them up. And so now I have this, I turn it off for year-round, but here are all my little ornaments throughout the years. I'll get up close to all the different ones. I don't even know what I'm looking at because it's like a little small window here. But anyway, they're all light up, and of course, far be it for me not to have Leonard Nimoy participate. Let me hear.
Shuttlecraft to Enterprise. Shuttlecraft to Enterprise. Spock here. Happy holidays. Live long and prosper.
Excellent.
But so there's. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. There's more. Far be it for me not to give you the full experience. A second here.
Space, a final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
I'd never seen any of these before. This is
That's
great.
cool.
I think it's the idea, but I was used to watch it. But I thought I'd give you the little demo, and now it's a year-round tree, and well, I guess. Since I'm here, I do have another one. This one is a Bluetooth speaker, so that plays all the time. There's Spock, in case you're wondering. There he is. He does send his greetings, and then I have another one my wife got me here. So here's another one here that glows and so forth. But I think that pretty much covers that. Let me stop sharing here. Whoops, I'm fat fingering this.
You have any tribbles?
Tribbles.
I do not have that. But let's see here. Let's see if I can get that. Get myself back to where I was. But last one. There we go. Now.
Nice, John. Very nice.
That's neat.
Great.
Yeah. Let me see.
Hold on a second.
Get it. We don't need two me. There we go. Now I'm dying. I can't deal with the two of me thing. But last but not least, I want to raise a glass to a Merry Christmas to you guys and a Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, any other holidays I may have overlooked. And I really appreciate everybody being in all these Zoom meetings throughout 2024 and years before, and looking forward to 2025. And I'll set up the schedule. I'll have to figure that out over the Christmas break. I'll set up the calendar for next year. But I expect somewhere around January 8th feels about right to me. So in the meantime, you guys stay warm, have a great holiday, stay safe, stay well. And thanks again, and looking forward to seeing you guys in March, whoever can make it in Castleton.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
We'll see you next year.
Great year, everybody. Great shows. It's good seeing everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thanks.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Santa.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.